Welcome to the Oakland Mayor and Council meeting. Tonight is March 9th, 2022. Before we begin, please look at your cell phones. Make sure they're on mute so it doesn't disturb everybody. Also, I ask you to please refrain from texting. It's disruptive, it's discourteous, and could be construed as a violation of the Public Meetings Act. This time, roll call.
Mayor Schwager.
Here.
Councilman Kamala.
Here.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Here.
Councilman Saliani.
Here.
Councilman Sosinski.
Here.
Councilman Talamini.
Here.
Councilman Banek.
Here.
At this time, please stand for salute to the flag, and then remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And during the moment of silence, please think about peace and think about those children that were injured today in the Ukraine. Be seated. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Law duly announced, advertised, and posted in the municipal building. This meeting will adjourn at 10 p.m. unless majority of the council members that are present vote to extend the time. And for my report this evening, I'm talking about the effects of the invasion into Ukraine by Russia. I know it's not official business in our town, but I do know that our residents are outraged and wish to help many innocent people. Many of us want to help struggling Ukrainians who are under attack by Russia. And you may want to donate. You may want to give whatever you can. However, unfortunately, there are always people who are trying to scam others. So, for all of you, please beware of scammers. There was a very good article today in the paper, and I'm just repeating what the article said. Scammers are on the lookout to take advantage of your generosity and your wish to help. Is that okay? I heard something. Are you right? All right. So, if you're asked to give, you're asked to help, please, please do your research. Make sure you are donating to a legitimate 501c3 nonprofit organization. You can find out if they are legitimate by going to the IRS website or the New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs. 2, you can get more information. Go to GuideStar on the web. 3, don't assume anything. A friend of a friend of a friend told you, oh, donate money, give to this person, give to that organization. Do your own research. 4, important, don't pay with cash or a debit card. A debit card goes right back to your account. And only use a credit card if you're going to donate money. Finally, check your accounts. After you donate, look for suspicious activity in your accounts or any unauthorized charges, and that includes bank accounts, any kind of account, and your credit card accounts. So these are very important to remember because unfortunately, people out there are looking for ways to make money illegally. Tonight there's going to be a resolution on the table about helping and support the people of Ukraine. It's just our way of saying we are with you, we support you, and especially the children. When you hear about children getting hurt, innocent young children, that is the most shocking thing. And with that, I will entertain a motion to open to the public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wish to speak? Hello. You have to give your name and address, even though we all know you.
So again, Mike Guarnino, 34 Harper Street. I am the Recreation Chairman. As many of you know, we've been working on a plan to resurface the tennis courts. We've been working really hard on this for a year and a half or so. Our council liaison, Councilman Van Heck, has been doing a phenomenal job, helping us, pushing us, getting us, trying to get us where we want to be. I've spoken to several people here on the council over the past week about the issue, and we think we have something really wrapped up pretty tight, which we support. The Recreation Commission supports this plan that thankfully the Borough Administrator came up with about a day or so ago that allows Recreation to finance, and Recreation will pay for the resurfacing of the courts, and we absolutely support this. It's a nice plan. It gives us pickleball courts, gives us tennis courts, and we absolutely support that plan, and Recreation is ready to take on responsibility. Obviously, we need to see what the bid comes back as, but we support this.
Thank you, and I heard everybody's happy, pickleball players and tennis players.
Right now, they're happy, yes. We're not in season. Now, what we aren't happy about is this bid that you're going to be discussing tonight from Boswell. They wish to charge $24,100 to do the paperwork and do the construction. $9,900 for preparation of contract documents. I have two lawyers here. I close on my house. We could do wills. We won't even touch $9,000 to do paperwork. I find this egregious. The Recreation Commission does not support spending this money on this. We are asking to bid out for our engineering services for this. We've had issues in the past where Boswell has, we thought, overcharged. This, I think, should be the final straw. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we bid it out and we find out that Boswell is the least expensive. But quite honestly, I'm asking the council tonight to reject this resolution for this bid for $24,100 to do engineering work on a plan that really isn't that big of a plan. You're talking about resurfacing the courts and putting some pickleball courts in. So I'm asking for rejection. I'm also asking to please, let's bid this thing out. Let's get some quotes outside, some outside engineers. Let's see what they come back with. And again, I might be wrong. This might be the best thing for it. But at this time, after what I've seen in the past and what I see here in front of me, and the breakdown of what all this stuff is, I'm absolutely asking for a complete rejection of this. Even if this means that we have to wait a little bit longer, but as a recreation student, and as I was reminded this week that I can't spend the money's spent right here, that I'm asking that because as a recreation steward, I can't go back to my recreation families and say, you have to foot $24,000 for engineering studies when it's just absolutely useless.
Bless you.
Questions?
Thank you.
So,
Bless you.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. That's resolution 22-100.
Yeah, Alice, that is pulled out.
Okay. Anybody else?
It's pulled out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hi.
it's all right. The microphone's above you, so you can all speak together.
Jody Gaffredo, Oakland, New Jersey.
You have to give your address.
Oh, 44 Sioux Avenue.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Each
Debbie
one has to
Notaru,
give your
101
address too.
Walnut Street. Philomena LaForgia, 54 Saratoga.
Carrie Sardides, 41 Sioux Avenue.
Kathleen McCarthy, 10 Dakota.
So we are all from the Access for All Committee. And we just wanted to stand up here tonight and thank you for promoting this and encouraging that. We met last week via Zoom, and the MAWA committee joined us.
Oh, great.
And they gave us a lot of good ideas. And so with those ideas, we've learned that we're going to need some money.
Oh.
We haven't put together anything yet that we will need money for, but keep that in mind. To really run successfully, those things will have to be looked at.
Have you thought about an amount to start with?
No, we don't have anything yet, but just wanted to run that by you. We're going to be applying for a grant as well. What?
The grant was due by 3/6. We
Oh,
passed that.
The letter of intent,
the letter of intent.
Oh, the letter of intent,
We
okay.
missed it?
we might have missed it.
We missed
I
it.
missed it.
But there's other opportunities.
There's other opportunities.
There's also other opportunities to get money too.
Is there,
Okay.
is there a way the town can help us? Like,
You're not gonna be left without money.
Okay.
Somehow we'll get you money, even if we have to fundraise or do something.
yeah, we
Excellent.
plan.
We finally have a committee. I thank you so much that I'm not gonna let that just go to the wayside.
Okay.
Money, we'll get you the money somehow.
And the second thing that we need will be a Zoom account that doesn't cut us off in 40 minutes.
Well, I can't answer that because
I
I'm
know.
not the one to talk about with Zoom. So, Richard,
We'll work that through Kelvin.
Excellent.
Thank you. So we do have a Facebook page already, so it's All Access Oakland.
Oakland.
And so that's up and running, and we're working to create the opportunities as we speak. And Debbie is our, Carrie is our secretary.
I am.
Yeah.
And who is the treasurer?
Who is the treasurer?
We don't have any money yet.
Oh, I think Chris was. Chris is
Yeah.
not here.
Oh,
though.
okay, yeah,
There's
yeah.
another member that's not here, so,
Yes.
yeah, so we're excited.
Excellent. That is so great. Thank you so much on behalf of Oakland.
Yeah, we also would like to hope that you guys can take a look at having like town council meetings held via Zoom, interactive, to have access for all people, you know.
Oh, in
interested
addition to in person?
Yeah,
You know, some towns, Richard, my mayor's group tell me that some have allowed call-ins
like
and.
White Claw.
Yeah, we brought that up a couple of meetings ago, and I know we're looking into how we could use the technology to pull that off.
So just so you know, we're trying and have been since the beginning of the year, we're trying to get the Board of Education to do that as well. And so far, we've had resistance.
Both boards, local and regional?
The
Regional.
high
Oh,
school,
yes.
and we've gotten some, well, I don't even know if it's resistance, we've just been ignored.
Funny, as I was just mentioning to Judith Sullivan, that I have a meeting with the superintendent this week.
Yeah.
I will bring that up.
Yeah, so I mean, it's already in place in places like Ridgewood and I think Franklin Lakes K through 8. And it's just really another opportunity for people to access and participate in their civil duties and stuff. So if you can embrace
Please.
that as well,
Yeah.
I think we'd be united in front.
Councilman, tell me, on the local level, do they have access?
And they don't do it, they're not recorded, you know, they're just in-person meetings. But
Okay.
I'll bring it up.
Okay.
Just if you take a look at like YouTube and look at White Claw council meetings or Board of Education meetings, you'll see they have like a conference call number.
That's what I was told, yes,
And
from the
that's-
councilman there.
That's a good start.
We're gonna work together.
And then just before you go, the last meeting that I was here, Councilman Benak had mentioned about maybe some ideas you guys would have for the Public Events Committee, making things, so there's a meeting on, at 7:30 on the February 15th at the Senior Center. So if all of you, attend,
I'll be attending.
then we could discuss some stuff and see what we could do.
It does coincide with the Board of Ed meeting, so we'll have to just work it out, but one of us will be there.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Todd Horn, 82 Manitou. I just had a quick question about the flags in town, the American flags. Bush Plaza, Van Allen House, the library, none of which seem to be illuminated at nighttime. And I think proper etiquette is that they're supposed to be illuminated.
That's right.
So I don't know if they're considering street lights to be illumination or not, but they seem pretty, like Bush Plaza, you can virtually not see it at nighttime. And I'm just wondering also, the flag seems so small, it's like the size of a postage stamp. And I'm saying, I'm very patriotic, and I personally think that we should have a bigger flag. I'm just wondering what can be done about that.
When Councilman Knapp was here, he took that as a personal issue, and since he's gone, Mr. Carnes?
Yeah.
Will you check on that,
Maybe
on lighting up the flag at night?
It's in 3 locations.
It is supposed to be illuminated. Honestly, I don't know whether that's direct illumination or by
I looked it up, I
somebody.
mean, it does talk about illumination, and that's kind of up for debate.
From the
So-
ground, right?
Correct, so, but even they say that it could be illumination from other lights in the area. So the one down by Van Allen, it's illuminated only when the street light is working. So when I was sitting at the red light tonight, it was illuminated, but 2 seconds later, the lights went out, so there's no illumination. 90% of the time when I come through, it's dark. The one in Bush Plaza is the one that's most obvious, and it's on a huge flagpole with this little tiny flag. The one at the library is, in my opinion, not illuminated either. They do a good job down at the Veterans Park,
Yes.
but the other ones are not illuminated.
Mayor, maybe we could have Matt Goodrich, our electrician, take a look at doing that.
He's an employee of the borough, he's also an electrician. So that's a good idea. Excellent.
But again, maybe
And-
they can get a bigger flag in Bush Plaza, if that's
That's no
possible. I don't know
Well,
who controls
maybe,
that.
well, we have a committee here, Station Park, Bush Plaza, that will be one of the issues.
We've already discussed the flag, yeah.
We already discussed it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If none, motion closed.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have approval of the minutes. We have minutes from the February 23rd, 2022 meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second?
Is there any discussion? If not, roll call.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Saliani.
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Abstain.
Councilman Van Eck.
Yes.
We have minutes from the executive session of February 23rd, 2022. If there's going to be any comment, it must be made during an executive session. There are motion to approve.
So moved?
Second.
Will there be any discussion? Roll call.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Saliani.
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Abstain.
Councilman Van Eck.
Yes.
We have Tony Smith, who has put in a citizen leadership form for the Flood Commission. And will anybody make the motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Saliani.
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Eck.
Yes.
He also would like to be on Access for All. So we have, I don't have the list. Do we have, no?
I have to look to see if we have an open spot.
Okay, if we do, Tony, thank you. And you have another member. You know what? Where would it be on here? There's a 2-year term. So I asked if Tony Smith is interested. Make a motion, Councilman Van Eck?
For Access for All?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Motion?
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Saliani.
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Eck.
Yes.
Great, thank you, Tony. And you have another member. We still have some openings on other boards and commissions if anybody is interested. We have a raffle license request from the Oakland Franklin Lakes Rotary Club, raffle license 1421, and it is for 50/50 to be drawn on September 27th, 2022 at 8 p.m. And the money is used for life-saving heart surgeries, children of third world countries, community service, local high school scholarships, and support for food banks and veterans organizations. There a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So now we have budget presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. We had intended this evening to have this up on the screen, and of course, it's brought past live through OCC, but we're having a technical issue here with the feed. So unfortunately,
I can hold it up.
you have paper copies.
I have paper copy.
We're gonna go through that. The presentation will be on the website tomorrow for anybody that wants to view it, okay? And I guess they can get a copy of that and rewatch the meeting and follow along.
It'll look like this, everybody.
Okay, so with that, we're gonna start taking you through the budget presentation. This will encapsulate a number of different items, appropriations, revenues, tax impact, process, and the like. So when we started this year's process, it was set with several different objectives in mind. Of course, how to best go about delivering exceptional service to residents and businesses for the smallest possible tax burden. We're looking to minimize appropriations through process improvements, shared services, and the like. That's always a goal. Particular emphasis this year on And you'll see as we get into this later on, a number of challenges related to the economy overall and inflationary pressures up and down the line. We're looking to transition capital expenditures away from debt service to the greatest extent possible. I think we have a good plan for doing that for this budget year. And of course, maintaining compliance with the state levy and appropriations cap, and overall trying to meet the goal of having a tax increase of 2% or less to our residents. Okay, so when we do this, we kind of take a look back historically. That helps inform the present, and we also keep an eye on the long-term fiscal picture as we go along. We're always mindful of the fact that your decisions today have an impact tomorrow and in subsequent years. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to start out kind of taking you through the preliminary results for the reassessment project, because that has some bearing on things this year, and I think everybody's kind of interested in where that's winding up. And then we'll go through budget appropriations, give you a brief overview on the capital plan. We'll go through anticipated revenues, the water and sewer utilities, and then wrap up by talking about the process from here to adoption. David,
Certainly. So we're going to start quickly on the reassessment. The county ordered us to do a reassessment, as we all know, in 2020. Due to COVID, they gave us a year to get it done. We got to do it in 2021. That was completed by Associated Appraisal Group. They're working through all the final results, listening to people who have questions or concerns. Then eventually that'll roll up to the county, and the county will either approve it and send it back to us, and that will determine the assessed value of all the properties for the purpose of taxes and for our tax rate. All the figures that you'll see and we'll talk about tonight are preliminary. We won't have the finals until sometime over the summer. We don't anticipate they'll change much, but just a reminder, they are preliminary. The results of the assessment, the total assessed property value went up by about 33%. So that doesn't mean that taxes are going up by 33%, thank God. But we look at three different pieces of the increases. The total went up by 33, residential only went up by 29. What that means is we've got to shift away from residential property taxes towards industrial commercial. So that'll be a good thing for us on our upcoming tax bills. If your assessed value, and everybody should have gotten a letter in the mail telling you what happened, if your assessed value went up by less than that 33%, all things being equal, if the budget didn't go up, you would see a decrease. If your assessed value went up by more than that, then all things being equal, you're probably looking at a relative increase to your tax bill.
So page 7.
The total assessed value for residential was 83% in 2021. That means 83% of your tax levy was supported by the residents. In 2022, that's dropping to 81%. So again, that's a 2% shift away from where we were just a year ago.
Right, and conversely, the percentage of the tax levy that's made up of the industrial and commercial properties is rising from 15.2% to 17.5%. That really kind of illustrates the shift in where it's going.
Their actual assessed value went up by almost 50%. So that was a big jump in the assessed value of those type properties. The average home in Oakland in 2021 was assessed at $413,000. In 2022, that number's about $537,000. Again, that's that 30% increase that we just talked about. That breaks out kind of funny. About 70% of the residents will see an increase that is less than that 30%. The other 30% are actually seeing an increase above that, so those increases on the above, and look at averages, are going to be a little bit higher. So there will be some residents that are going to be seeing significant impact based upon the reval and what's going to happen on the tax rate. Again, final impact we won't know. We got to wait for school budgets, we got to wait for the county budgets, we got to wait for the final tax rate. So we won't know the final impact on your tax bills until August. Up until then, we can tell you what we think is going to happen on the municipal average, but that's all we'll know for sure in the interim before we pass the budget.
Okay, so next, let's get into budget appropriations a little bit, and just a little bit of, just a word on the planning process that we use. We start by seeking budget requests from departments, agencies, and commissions. They're typically due in October or so, and then the CFO and administrator, myself, the administrator, will meet with the agencies throughout the fall. By the end of the year, we'll then start meeting with the finance committee. We look at contracts, state aid, salary increases, and the capital plan are all incorporated into the overall budget document. We try to get a draft budget to the finance committee by the end of January, finalize that by the end of February, and here we are tonight with the budget presentation. Page 9.
David. Just backing up just a little bit, talking about that process, we met with the Budget Committee February 28th, and even since then, there were significant changes to the budget for things that came in, with additional contracts that came through, grants and capital projects that got added. So it really is an ongoing, evolving document that we work with. The state of New Jersey has placed what's called a cap on our appropriations, what we can do each year with the budget. They limit the increase that we're allowed to do. That increase, that cap as they call it, is applied to about 75% of the budget. Things like capital and debt service, health insurance, some of those things are outside the cap. So those increases, they look at and say, okay, we understand we're not always going to be able to control that. So the process is they take last year's budget, they look at the COLA, the cost of living adjustment that they apply each year, any new construction that's added, and we have what's called a cap bank. The state was actually pretty smart on this. They said, we know you may or may not use the entire allowance every year, but we'll let you bank it for 1 or 2. That way, if you need more next year and less last year, on average, you still have to hit that cap of 2% or whatever the COLA is, but it doesn't have to be in a single year. Our permitted cap for this year, when you look at all the things that are included, was about 17.5 million. We're coming in at 17.1. So we're well within the statutory cap for the appropriations. Looking behind that in some of the detail, inside cap is about 75% of our budget. Our salary and wages is going up by about 2.4 inside. Our other expenses are taking a pretty significant hit. We'll talk about the detail of that in a couple slides, going up by about 8.5. Outside of cap, we actually have a pretty good year. Outside of cap, small amount of salary wages only going up by 0.5%, and our other expenses only up by about 1.6. A couple years ago, it was actually the reverse. We were very light inside cap, which is why we have some cap bank, but we were very heavy on the items that were outside cap. So it fluctuates up and down. Total budget forecasted right now is about a 2.9% increase. The RUT, also looking to have that go up 2%, a little bit over 2%. The RUT is the reserve for uncollected taxes. Because we collect taxes for the towns, obviously, we also collect for the school and the county. We have to give them all of their money. No matter how much we collect, we have to pay out what the school and the county needs. So they look at what we normally collect in a given year and say, okay, you have to make up the difference in a budget line item. So that's called the RUT. We kind of have that follow the levy increase from year to year. We're in pretty good shape generally with that. We do an accelerated tax sale. So we do it in the same year that the taxes are due. So we collect usually about 99.5% of our taxes. So that really makes managing the budget and not having to worry about too big a rut fairly simple for the borough.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the key drivers this year, the things you want to focus on. Salaries and wages. Salaries and wages are up overall year over year 2.4%. A big chunk of that is due to the accumulated absence reserve and the need to increase that as we plan for a wave of retirements in the police department towards the end of 2024. So that's something that we noted when we ran an analysis last year. that we needed to take some steps to be able to meet those obligations at that time. If you discount that, without it, the rest of these salaries and wages are going up only 1.4% overall, even considering that the collective bargaining agreement cost of living adjustments are running about between 2 and 2.5% or so. Okay. This includes a couple new hires replacing retirees, 9 promotions, the vast majority of which are related to retirements that occurred last year or will be occurring this year, and a couple of new positions for a minor amount of money for part-time commissioned secretaries.
Excuse me, does this also include the movement in the construction office and replacing and substituting and
It all,
covering?
it's all in that. It's all within that, yes.
Yeah, but that's not what we discussed at Finance Committee. We only said there was gonna be 1 part-time secretary, not 2.
I'm sorry, I thought the vote was split on that, so that's why we left it in for council discussion.
Oh, Slazinski wanted to do it as a second?
That was the takeaway that Dave and I had.
Okay, so it's
But
not what I had, but
obviously.
unless
it's
Kevin
something
can
that-
correct me if he really does want to do that.
We can discuss it.
Okay, so, you know,
But what about the inspectors? We're substituting inspectors also.
all of that's planned for in here.
It's all planned for.
Yeah. And Councilman, certainly this is, you know, a presentation we haven't even introduced yet, so it's all subject. to
That's really disappointing to see that.
Okay.
I thought that was a done deal.
All right, some of the operating expenses, and this is where we were seeing some of the greatest challenges year over year. Insurance, that's both property and casualty, which is up 5% in what right now is a very challenging market, and health insurance benefits, which are up 7% overall. That includes a relatively minimal 2% premium increase, but we have additional retiree health care expenses, as well as change in the coverage mix. By that I mean, you know, those employees that may have gone from single to husband and wife, or husband and wife to family and whatnot, and that accounts for the rest of that change. Solid waste, we had planned on a rather large increase, and just over the last couple of days we realized that it's going to be rather significantly larger. So there's a projected $377,000 increase in the solid waste budget for this year.
Does that include recycling?
That includes recycling collection as well, when I say that. Yes.
Mr. Coons, can I just ask you a question about that? I know we've asked multiple times to have this go out to bid, and the issue is nobody bids on it because the whole market is carved out. Is that safe to say?
The last couple of times we've bid, we've had one bidder.
And it's not just our town, I don't know what you're saying, it's not just Oakland, it's
It's
every
not
town.
Oakland, yeah.
We have met, the mayors have met, we've met in the county, we've complained to the state, it's all over, it's, our hands are tied.
So-
If you have a way of getting another bidder from solid waste, good luck.
I guess the question is have we collectively, as multiple towns together, sent a letter to the AG's
Yes.
office saying, please break this up?
Yes, we have, we have.
That last year.
I think we did it.
Years ago.
Yeah.
Several times.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Not just once, multiple times. And
Yeah, we
every
did
year
that in
we
2020.
complain and we contact them, but I don't think it's just in New Jersey.
Okay.
We could do it again.
We
should.
can.
Yeah,
Put it on the
We don't
record.
stop.
Put it on the record.
yeah. I'm in favor of that.
I
for
mean, that's
sure.
$377,000.
A lot of money.
But you can't even get another company to bid.
More.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
More.
Yeah, to clarify, that's in addition to the cost.
Right.
That's the uptake in the budget.
Right.
And we already put it up to last year.
Utility costs, most of that is due to what we're projecting with the rising fuel costs, and wanting to make sure that we have enough in the budget to meet that, assuming that they're going to keep rising, at least for some period of time. So 70,000 of that increase is just for vehicle fuels. PERS, that's the pension, civilian pension in particular, that is state directed. Basically, they give us a bill and we are required to pay it. And that's up $55,800. The 2021 reassessment, That was actually a decision last year to handle the funding for the reassessment. The year one cost is a 5-year special emergency, so that requires funding of $40,000 a year for each of the next 5 years. So you're seeing that first year cost here this year. Social Security is up $35,000 due to accumulated absence payouts. Snow removal up $27,000, principally because of a rather large increase in the price per ton of salt. And so far this year, salt usage has been probably up over the past year due to the nature of the events that we've had. We've had a lot of icing this year so far. And then, as you know, we're in the process of selling off Borough property. We had to just budget the projected commission costs in the budget for this year.
Why, if it comes out of the sale?
No, that's a good number.
It's offset by
Because-
revenue on the other side.
Yeah,
Okay.
and if it sold for more, that number could be more, but that's a good thing for the community because that means we're actually bringing in additional revenue.
Right, that was
So that
my
is one of the
question.
few things you'll ever see on a council budget that is a good expense.
Yeah, so that was, I was curious why it had to be listed as,
Well, it's an appropriation increase, but
Okay.
yes, there's a revenue offset
Right,
essentially
okay.
on that side.
Can I just ask about the $40,000, the reassessment? So it's just gonna, for 5 years, it's $40,000 and then it goes away? Or are we going, the $40,000 is gonna be continuing forward?
The special emergency will be satisfied within 5 years.
We also increased the budget last year by $50,000 in the assessor's line item for ongoing
Right.
reassessment. So the fact that we'll be
Right.
doing an annual reassessment
Okay,
every year
so
now
that's a
to keep
different
the
num- this is a different
estimated
number.
value there. Yeah.
Correct. This was to fund the original, the main part of it that we're going through now.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
You also, in the back of that package, there is the budget line detail sheets for everybody to look at, if you want to go through those. 16 departments were flatter down in terms of the budgets for the other expenses. So you really do see that $800,000 is made up by these 8 line items. The department heads really did a good job of maintaining and managing, the spend, especially given that they're facing, a consumer price index that's 5% up, for the last 12 months. So it's gonna be a tight expense year on that. Yeah, the state requires us to include a capital plan in the budget. The capital plan in the budget does not authorize us to spend any of that money, but they want it to be included in there. It's a very public document, it's what most people focus on, so that the community has an idea of what we're planning on doing with capital in a given year. Some of the key elements for this year, we're looking to utilize the American Recovery Plan Act monies as a grant to offset the cost of our road program. We've got some fund balance that has accumulated over the years from ordinances that we canceled. For the public, when we have an ordinance for $200,000 for a project, if we only spend $180,000, we cancel the last 20, it goes back in the coffers to be able to use for future projects. We have quite a bit of that that's kind of accumulated over the years, so we're gonna spend some of that to offset this year's capital projects. And of course, we look for a lot of grants everywhere we can. Michael and Rich do a really good job of identifying, securing, and sourcing grants for us.
Dave, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I read in the paper the other day that we could possibly be getting some money from the opiate settlement. Would just come in under general revenue, or would it be earmarked for something?
That's yet to be seen. Typically, we would take that in as through the Chapter 159 process.
Okay,
If that's after budget adoption.
okay.
Whether or not we could use that as, kind of general funding, or whether it's going to be directed to a certain purpose remains to be seen. There was state legislation that is either proposed or on the governor's desk that would direct how the state funding is used. I've not seen anything specific as to what our particular allocation will be, or how we would or would not have to use it.
Hopefully there'll be some direction to use it for educational purposes, because I really think we need to concentrate part of that on education for our young children. So hopefully they'll let us do that.
and
I'd
what
like to
about,
see that.
and what about the money for, that the legislature just passed about us getting money back for the utility tax?
That's 330.
That's 330. So we were gonna cover that in the revenue part of the presentation. So that is not anticipated in here because the legislation has not been passed by the Assembly, it hasn't been signed by the governor. We're not even sure that if they were to do that by this spring, that it would apply to this budget year or not. So that all remains to be seen. So the
And
budget's
did they,
been prepared
and we don't know
without
how
that.
it has to be focused or used?
It would have to
We
be
have
used.
indicators.
What's that?
We have indicators for what
Yeah.
they're
Okay.
directing. There's probably some technical aspects of it after the fact that will have to be specific from the division. They'll say, okay, this is how you're going to do it to offset taxes. But that's basically what they're earmarking it for, is for the taxes. And for us, we estimate based upon the numbers that the Senate put forth in their bill. And again, obviously, that's all subject to change, about $375,000 over 2 years in terms of increased state aid. That would be nice.
You mentioned that.
ARPA, the ARPA money that we're looking to use, and again, that's American Recovery Plan Act, it's about $1.3 million. And that's what we're looking to use to do some of the funding for the road program for this year. The major projects we've got, you can see they're listed here. For the general public, you'll see that in the packet if you want to download it. We have 7 or 8 very large categories, from computer upgrades to fire apparatus, our annual road sidewalk programs. We do vehicle replacements. Actually, it's about $245,000 in the budget, and that's less than what we normally do. This year, we don't have any big items from DPW, no front loaders, no large trucks. So it's a relatively small item. We've got quite a bit in terms of stuff for the community in Truman Field, Roosevelt Park, the Van Allen House. Phase 3 flood buyouts are also included here, as are some general building improvements.
Dave, I'd just like to point one thing out for the public.
Yes, sir.
The second one, fire apparatus partial funding. That's for the trust fund, right?
That's where we put $200,000 aside a year so that we can build forward to purchase a replacement fire apparatus.
That's
That's
so
our
that,
annual, that's
yeah,
our annual.
that's so
money.
that, like, when we did we're gonna be doing the ladder truck, which is a little over $1 million. We put $200,000 a year aside for 5 years, so that when it comes time to purchase it, we don't have to take $1 million out of the budget. The money's already there. So we create savings accounts, and this is one of them, so that when we do have a big expenditure, we have the cash to do it rather than bond it or pay interest on it, which is, really good idea.
That's been ongoing for many, many
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
We've
Yep.
done that.
And I think there's a typo there, it's phase 3 flood buyouts, not floor buyouts, in the second to last line.
And the electronic vision that Michael has, we had fixed that. So close. The total capital plan budgeted for this year is $5.5 million. About $1.1 million is gonna come from this year's budget. We have $3.4 million just about in grants and aid, which is a tremendous amount of money that's coming into the borough. We'll be using that capital improvement fund balance for about 1.2, and the future debt out of this year's capital plan, 0. First time in my tenure here, the first time in Rich's 14 years here, that we actually have 0 debt being added to the books. That's a good thing for most of the kind of stuff that we're doing. If you've got a major once-in-a-lifetime project like we had with the bridge, that's gonna last 75 years, doing that with debt's probably a good thing. But road programs, vehicles, some of these other things, no sense paying 20% extra over the life of the program by going into debt, to pay for it if you can avoid it. We're not pay-as-you-go yet. This is a good first step. I think we got another year coming next year with some things Michael's gonna get for me, right, Michael? Okay. And then maybe the feds will come through for the next couple of years. So good news on the capital plan. The other side of our ledger sheet from the appropriations and the expenses, how we're gonna raise the money to fund it. For the borough, there's 4 primary revenue sources. We have our taxes, we have miscellaneous revenue, that's your fees, your permits, licenses, surplus, which is using money that we've been able to save in a given budget year and put in the bank, we pull it back out, and then delinquent taxes. For us, delinquent taxes, again, is very small. We do an accelerated tax sale. For us, that budget line item is about $10,000 a year. It's very, very, very minimal. We also have a tax levy cap. Same as on the appropriations. It's slightly different in how it works. The state allows us a 2% increase. There are things that are an exception to that. Certain items such as capital or debt, health insurance, pension. If they're above that 2%, we're allowed to take that as an exception. We have new construction, and the same thing, you have a cap bank. If you didn't use it last year, you can save it for a year or two. Our permitted levy this year cap for the tax is $16.5 million. We're only proposing $15.7 in this year's budget. So again, we're well under the levy cap. Our four sources, again, are surplus, miscellaneous, delinquent, and the levy. Surplus is going down a little bit by 2.8%. We're going to talk in detail about all of these. Miscellaneous revenue is up about 10%. Delinquent tax is flat. And the municipal levy without the library is up by about 4.5%. Total budget is up by 2.9%, same as the appropriations. The other thing that you don't see here in the public that you see in front of you out the dais here is we're still heavily dependent versus where we had been in the past on surplus, representing about 8% of our budget. Not really sustainable to be at that level. We're fortunate in the last couple of years we've had some unique things that have built that surplus up. The sale of property that Grant talked about earlier, if we get half of what we're planning to sell, that will give us a nice boost that we can use to offset taxes at a very high level for the next 3 years. So we're in good shape with our surplus. We're looking again
Just one more thing on the property sale.
Yes.
An added bonus is if, once it is sold, then that falls into rateable for us. So that is land that we will now generate taxes from ongoing. So it's the initial hit that's a boost to our budget, but ongoing, it adds to our overall tax base, which is a good thing for the community.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Grant. Surplus, again, we're looking to balance that over the next 3 years at about $1.85 million, really high. Our actual budget can probably, if it wasn't for all these extras, like with the sale of the property, could support about 1.5. But we've got a unique situation, we're gonna take advantage of it and not do anything high with the taxes as we can avoid it. Miscellaneous revenue, projecting about $3.7 million. Local revenues are up. That's recreation. You've got some new programs and you've got some fee increases, so that's driving up a little bit. We've got court, going to do some additional sessions. They've got a backlog of tickets and things that are out there, so we can anticipate some higher revenues on that. Construction's actually down a little bit, about 15,000. We're only allowed to, anticipate what we did in the past year. And other local, we're up about 200,000 for the sale of assets, using some reserves for the next couple of years. And fire safety, we've moved where we're coding some of that stuff.
Right, and I'll just point out again that without S330, state aid would again be flat for us for about the 13th, 14th year in a row or so.
So S330 is going to be really good for us. So if there's any things that are unanticipated, we look at our crystal ball, we're looking at 2% or lower tax increases for the next couple of years. We get another surprise like the garbage, that state aid would be a nice offset. Municipal taxes, again, the impact to the tax bill for the residents, looking at 2% for this year. Also looking ahead to the next couple of years being at about that same level. Over the last 12 years, even looking forward, the average has been about 1.88. That's a little bit below the tax levy cap that's allowed by the state. Had some valleys, 2018, had some peaks, 2020. But on average, we've been right in there at around that 2%. Consumer price index for that same time period, so 1.86.
Right around there.
Right about 1.86, so our increase has been right around where the consumer price index is, just as a general benchmark. Again, we collect it all. We send about 75% of it back out the door. So the municipality only keeps about 25% of your tax bill that you get every year. The rest of it goes out to the county and to the schools.
Both local and regional.
Local, regional, and the county open space, all that's in that 75% that we do not get to keep.
Right.
Please show this pie chart to everyone you know so they understand where the majority of the tax bill is going.
It's on the tax bills.
Yep.
And I'll point out further too that, that library tax levy, 1.4%, that is determined by formula by the state. It's not anything that you have a say over at all. So, in essence, you're really controlling that, the blue portion there on the chart, 22.8%.
Right, that's why it's not 25%.
A little bit less. And at the end of the day, most important to most people is what's it gonna do to my tax bill. As we look at all the impact for the tax levy, the change in the ratables, moving away from residential to industrial, the net impact adding the library on top of our 2% that we're looking at will be about $62, $61.74 on the average tax bill as an increase from 21 to 22.
What's that amount again, 51?
$57.16 for the municipality, $4.58 for the library, combined what we call the municipal portion, increase of $61.74.
That's just the municipal.
That's municipal, we don't know yet what the schools in the county are going to do, but if we were to guess at them being slightly under 2%, with the change of the ratables moving away from residential, we think the net of that will probably be $200-ish, but we won't know because we don't know what impact things are gonna have on their budget. We may or may not know by the next budget presentation when we do the open public meeting in April, but we'll gather what we can. All we can do now is estimate them.
Okay, water and sewer utilities. So as you know, we operate a water utility and a small sewer utility as well. And the water rates themselves are set by ordinance. In December, we passed an ordinance that raised the fixed and variable rates on the water utility by 2% for 2022. That was after no increase in 2020. Or actually, there was an increase, I'm sorry, no increase in 2021. Sewer rates likewise are set by ordinance, and there was no rate increase for this year. Okay.
On the appropriation side, we've got one major change on the water side. We've got this capital outlay item for prior year ordinances. We had a few ordinances that were put on the books. We did the projects, and we never actually funded them. We never actually paid off those ordinances. We paid off the cash. We paid out of our surplus and our balances, but we never did allocate the funds for that. So that's in there on the appropriation side. Most of the rest of the appropriations are fairly flat. You'll see the PFOA is gone from the budget. We won't be doing the temporary rental we had talked about a couple of years ago, but that will be hitting the budget probably in 2024. We'll appropriate the money this year to do the project, the PFOAs that will start this year, conclude next year. We'll then have to start paying for that debt in the 2024 budget, as well as the increase there for the ongoing operations, which is not a small charge either. On the revenue side, again, we had that 2% increase in the rate. That on top of we had been collecting a little bit more than we had been budgeting. We're gonna do about a 2.5% increase in anticipating the rents. And then we've got the offset for the pay down of those old ordinances out of some reserves that we have in the books. That's the operating surplus, the rate stabilization reserve, and the capital surplus for those that have the package in front of them. This budget actually item might change a little bit between now and introduction. We'll probably get some more information from the Water and Sewer Committee on the specific capital projects that we'll spend this year out of cash, but we'll put the spend in on the appropriation side. We'll have an offsetting out of surplus from the water operating utility on the revenue side. The sewer utility, almost no changes at all this year on the appropriations. The only one you'll see is a decrease in the ACO. We had a double payment last year. We're down to the single payment for the next 4 years. So got the offset on the revenue side out of the current fund. No change to the rate there. The treatment plant decommissioning, we'll start seeing that work this year. It'll probably conclude sometime next year, and then the following year, we'll start footing the bill for the notes and the payment back to the NJEIT. And I think that's it on appropriations and revenue.
Okay, so, next steps. What we're planning on doing is preparing the final budget document for introduction. We're finalizing the budget document for introduction at the next meeting. At the same time, we'll do the annual cap bank ordinance and the self-exam resolution as well. That would put the budget hearing and budget adoption at the meeting of April 27th. In the interim between now and then, you have an opportunity to review the budget and make whatever adjustments that you feel are necessary. And we should talk whether tonight or after with the Finance Committee about a suitable, schedule for doing that review. Any questions?
Actually, just one question. Maybe you could just reiterate again how you're adjusting for inflation when it comes to fuel, and obviously we can't do as many miles of roads as we anticipate to do with costs going up. So of course with that, just can you expand on that just a little bit?
Well, with the fuels budget itself, all right, that's up $70,000 from what we're projecting, okay? And, David and I were talking yesterday about, we wish we had some sort of a crystal ball to determine, where prices are gonna wind up and how long they're gonna stay there. And so this, the first to say that this is sort of an educated guess over what we think we may need for the year to avoid having to do an emergency appropriation later. How it will affect things like capital projects like the roads program, there will be some effect. There is an asphalt price adjustment that is required to be in road programs. What that effect will be and what effect that will have, we won't know until we actually go out to bid. We have a list of roads. We're going to be preparing it with bid alternates. Probably a couple more bid alternates now than we had originally planned on to account for the potential increase there. But ultimately, we won't know that full impact until we actually receive bids.
Thank you.
And that number actually is going up from $130,000 in actual fuel expense last year. We're budgeting $220 this year.
Wow.
So it's a big jump. And when you look at how it's been going up, it was $189 March of last year. It was $242 in December. And we know since December it's continued to skyrocket. We funded that out of surplus. We didn't put that in the appropriation where we would take it in the tax levy because our hope and assumption is that it'll go back down somewhat to somewhat more normal levels. So that's how we're trying to deal with that without impacting the tax rate.
Thank you.
Just, will we be, trying to limit the usage also? Because it's one thing to, anticipate spending money, but maybe we should think about, I don't know, if we have extra cars and stuff, and just keep them off the road and,
It's interesting that you say that, because during the pandemic, we adopted a single-use policy for DPW, right? You can only have one person per vehicle. I think that's, with the relaxation of the mask mandate, that won't be necessary anymore. But to a certain extent, the work still needs to get done, the vehicles still need to be on the road. Police cars, basically, when they're on the road, primary patrol vehicles are running the full shift. There's really no way around that from an operational perspective. But certainly any vehicles that can be shut off, we can reiterate to make sure that they're not running any more than necessary.
Thank you. And then, I wasn't paying attention. Could you start over?
That was very funny.
Ryan, can you hit replay?
Look on the screen, I'll play for you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, just some, I guess we'll be discussing this coming up, but, I do have concerns with some things that are expenses in this budget. Some increases, like the secretaries for all our boards are getting an increase this year. I don't think this is the year to do that. Sustainable Oakland Green Team, $5,000. I am 100% opposed to that. I asked for it not to be in this presentation. I'm really upset that that $5,000 is on here. So I really would hope that it would have been off, and it's not. So I'm incredibly disappointed to see that on there.
Again, Councilman, I'm sorry if there was some miscommunication. I didn't think that was the decision of the committee itself. But again, we haven't even introduced yet, and that's something that the council and you guys certainly have the right to, make adjustments to, even for introduction if you wish.
Councilman, this is the proposal. Like with
I
all
know.
proposals, you start with one point, and then you discuss it. So yes, this is not the end all.
But I want to thank David, did a lot of work, and Rich, you put a lot of time and effort into this. It's very professional, very organized, incredibly detailed. You explain it in terms that anyone can understand, and I'm very grateful for your work that you did to present something that's so comprehensive and cohesive and clearly communicated to not just the governing body, but the public.
And color-coded. I'm sorry you didn't see it, but he has the graphs color-coded, so it's very easy to read. So when you do get to see it, you'll appreciate what the councilman just said. Thank you.
You're very
And
welcome.
again, it's the preliminary proposal, and now we move forward. We discuss, we negotiate, we cut, we add.
Yep, and again,
Cut.
the presentation
No, wait,
itself
No adding.
No!
will be on the website.
Remember all access?
Yeah, so give us green money.
All right.
Access green.
Resolutions, so we'll do this as a consent agenda, and we'll pull out any that you wish to pull out. All these items were previously discussed. Okay, Resolution 2295 is authorized promotion for Sandra Steele from Clerk 2 to Clerk 3 at an annual salary of $53,187. 2296 is to authorize the AARP grant submittal. It's a funding program available through their 2022 Aarp community, and it's to upgrade the patio at the senior center. 2297 is urging the swift passage of S 330, which restores the energy tax receipts. And this is what we had talked about, that we're finally going to get money back from all the utility taxes. Senators Singleton and Scuteri have introduced legislation, which is the S 330, that will restore over a 5-year period energy tax receipts back to the municipalities. So
We used to get it. We used to get it.
That's why I say back.
Right.
And Mayor?
Yes.
They've now reduced that to 2 years in the latest proposal, so they can give it back to us quicker if they pass it.
That would be great. We need it.
Beautiful.
2298 is to cancel grant balances. And the grant funds were 2020 Routes for Rivers receivable, 2020 Routes for Rivers Roosevelt, 2019 Routes for Rivers receivable, 2019 Routes for Rivers Roosevelt, BMed Wellness receivable 2020, BMed Employee Wellness Program 2020, BMed Wellness receivable, BMed Employee Wellness Program. And by the way, we already got $500 in credit for attending the JIF class, both Councilman Van Eck and myself. So that should help. 2299 is to authorize the grant application, the CDBG-CV3 grant application, and it totals $54,000, has been proposed by the Borough of Oakland for the Senior Center COVID-19 Phase 3 Upgrades Project. Resolution does not obligate the financial resources of the municipality and is intended solely to expedite expenditure of the aforesaid community development application. 22100 is, as you heard earlier, authorized engineering services for creation of pickleball improvements and improvements to the tennis courts. 22101 is to award bid the sewer treatment plant's decommissioning projects. And Pacific Construction, located in White House Station, New Jersey, had the lowest responsive and responsible bid with a base bid price of $5,531,500 and alternate bid A price of $74,000 for a total bid price of $5,605,500. And both the engineer and borough attorney have reviewed the bids. CFO has certified that funds are available. And this resolution is to resolve that the bid of Pacific Construction in the total amount of $5,605,500 be accepted. Resolution 22102 is the Memorial Day situation. In the past, Borough of Oakland has hosted a Memorial Day parade and ceremony for many decades. The parade and ceremony had been organized by the American Legion Post 369 of Oakland, New Jersey. We recently received a notification from American Legion Post 369. They advised the borough that it could no longer organize the Memorial Day parade, but will continue to hold the ceremony in Veterans Park and Pine Cemetery. And the Borough of Oakland has agreed to assume responsibility for the organization of a Memorial Day parade, subject to availability of police and other municipal services. But I was advised that this year it's too late with the parade, but we will still have the ceremony in Veterans Park. 22103 is to authorize refund of taxes due to duplicate payment. It is for Block 53015, commonly known as 720 Ramapo Valley Road. It was a double payment both by the owners of the property and the mortgage company, so the refund will be $3,507.48. And Resolution 22104 is a resolution in support of the people of Ukraine, and it talks about the whole resolution, if someone wants to read the entire resolution, and it talks about supporting the unity and independence from the Ukraine had supported unity and independence from the Soviet Union, forming a human chain between the cities of Kiev and Ivano-Frankivsk. And we have many Ukrainian citizens in the United States and in New Jersey. The state of New Jersey has nearly 75,000 persons of Ukrainian descent, many of whom are located in neighboring communities in northern New Jersey. The Borough of Oakland has many residents of Ukrainian descent, and this basically we're asking the resolution to acknowledge what is going on and unequivocally supports Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. It affirms the continued use of peaceful methods, including sanctions by the United States, as well as its allies and partners, to fully isolate the Putin regime economically for its unprovoked aggression against Ukraine, supports resistance by the Ukrainian people as long as the Russian Federation continues to violate Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, declares that the war in Ukraine, a democratic country, represents the front line of democracy and freedom versus authoritarianism. What is that word?
Authoritarianism.
I can't even say it.
Authoritarianism.
Authoritarianism represented by Putin's Russia, supports the state of New Jersey's suspension of relationships with businesses and financial institutions backed by the Russian government, which happened today in the state of New Jersey, and stands steadfastly, staunchly, proudly, and fervently behind the Ukrainian people in their fight against the authoritarian Putin regime. Are there any you wish to pull out?
Yes, 22100, please.
Yes. That's
And
all.
Mayor, 22102?
102. Any others? If not, is there a motion for the others?
Motion.
Second?
Second?
Roll call.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Salioni.
Yes.
Councilman Sisinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Eck.
Yes.
Okay. Resolution 22-100, Councilman.
Just ask that we put it out to bid. We have the two other engineering firms that we've approved to bid on things, and let's see what those costs come back.
Is there a second?
Second.
Well, that would-
Discussion?
Is that a motion to table the current resolution then, pending the bid?
Well, don't you have to just, well,
You have a resolution on your agenda. so
but they
what-
can
what
vote
action-
against it.
That's correct, so you can table it, you can vote against it, and what's the
What is
action?
your
Yeah,
preference?
I'd actually like to vote I would vote no to this resolution.
So what is your motion?
So my motion is to reject Resolution 22-100.
Now, is there a second to that?
Yes, second.
Is there a discussion on that?
I'm confused. We're rejecting, or are we voting on the resolution?
I think we
We're
should
voting
vote.
against the resolution.
I think someone should move the resolution. It should be seconded, then it's appropriate for a vote, and if you don't want to award the contract, then you vote no.
Okay, we're revising it. So someone has to vote for the motion.
So moved?
Well, move for the motion.
Second.
Okay, roll call. This is, well, no, right, so that we get this straight. This is the roll call. This is Resolution 22-100, authorizing engineering services for creation of pickleball and improvements to tennis courts. And Boswell Engineering has submitted a proposal dated February 28th, 2022. Preparation of contract documents, $9,900. Test 2 construction inspection, $14,200.
And just a little discussion before we vote, if that's okay?
Right, we had the
Yep.
motion in a second,
Yep.
now discussion.
I just, full disclosure to everyone here, a lot of you already know this, but I did approach Boswell Engineering to reduce, waive, donate the fees for this particular project, because it's been something that has been going on, in my opinion, too long. I think these are really high. I think it's an outrageous cost. And I did make that ask in an former email to Boswell Engineering, which I received an email back today saying that they would not be able to do that for this project.
Well, I think based on that, if we're uncomfortable with those numbers, then take the act we're taking. I think that's simple.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what the rec commissioner said, the fact that he certainly does not have the $24,000 in his budget. So that's really why we're in the position we're in.
Thank you, okay, so now roll call.
Councilman Kamala.
No.
Councilman Pignatelli.
No.
Councilman Saliani.
No.
Councilman Sasinski.
No.
Councilman Talamini.
I just feel we're doing this, if we're gonna ask for multiple bids, I think we should just, I feel that this is, we're asking our engineer to come up with a number, he comes up with a number, and then we're telling him, hey, we don't like your numbers, get out of here. We hired him. I understand the process, and I understand that the rec feels that they're not gonna be able to do it, so we could, absolutely, I think we come to more numbers, have more bids put in, but I think going forward, to put Boswell in this position almost every time, it doesn't make sense to me. Either we're going to use them as our engineer and trust them that we think that they're giving us the best deal that they can and getting what we can out of them for the quality firm that they are. Or we're going to go out for bid every time. And if that's the way we're doing, I'm sure Boswell would be happy with that. But to do this and say, hey, you guys are no good. You gave us a bill and you don't want to waive the fees. They're in business to make money. So I agree with everyone here. I'll vote no on the resolution. But I just think we have to do this in a better manner.
But we're voting down right now.
This is very unprofessional, in my opinion. But
What I feel is unprofessional too
wait a minute,
is not getting this in October when we originally discussed it.
All right, wait a minute, all right, let's finish the vote. Let's finish the roll call. Right now, what was your vote?
No.
Councilman Van Eck.
No.
So that means Resolution 22-101 was voted down. 100, what's 100? 100, sorry. 100 was voted down. So now we have to go back to the drawing board.
Right, so I will approach the other two firms that we qualified, solicit proposals from them, bring them back for your consideration as quickly as possible.
Yes. Now, Councilman Pignatelli, you pulled out Resolution 22-102.
Yes, on the Memorial Day Parade. I just want people to understand, The American Legion holds the Memorial Day parade very dear to our hearts, especially the ceremony afterward. But you have to understand, we have maybe 30-some members, and now we're down to 10. We've lost 2 of our members just recently. We're down to really just 10 people who do all the work. I sent out letters, 70 letters, to veterans in Oakland to come down and take a look at the facility. Not one answer. Not one. It's very difficult for 10 people ages 70 to 95 to do this work all the time. And this is not the only thing the Legion does. You know, we have poster contests, we have money that we dedicate to the Veterans Hospital, so we have to raise money, and we do have a hall that we rent out. And again, if it wasn't for our commander and maybe 3 or 4 people, we wouldn't even have that. So I don't want people to think that the American Legion is abandoning the Memorial Day. It's really not a celebration, but you know, we are going to have it in the park. We are going to have a grand marshal. I just wish anyone out there listening, if you're a veteran, please come down and take a look at the hall. We do several programs, and we'd love to do more, but you can't do it with 10 people doing all the work all the time between 70 and 95 years old. I mean, the 95-year-old was in World War II, God bless him. We don't expect him to do much, but...
Well, there's also going to be a big ceremony on March 29th for the Vietnam vets at the American Legion. So that's going to be very special.
Yeah, we recently had interest from the Marine Corps toward the Legion, but I don't want people to think that the Legion is abandoning the Memorial Day program.
Well, you're going to have the ceremony. We're going to have the nice
We're
ceremony.
going to have the ceremony.
In Veterans
We're
Park.
going to have a couple of speeches, but again, please, if you're a veteran, come take a look and help us. And, you know, maybe we can expand the celebration or the event in the future. But that's it, Mayor. I'm not voting against it.
And what about Mr. Beatty? I mean, he really put his heart and soul into the parade.
We have members who do the work who are cancer patients.
I know.
They have cancer, and they still come down to the hall to do work. You know, we maintain the premises, we paint the building, we trim the hedges, we do a lot of things, but it's a shame. It's a real shame that I sent out 70 letters, and we did not get even one response.
Ron Beatty of the American Legion, you has done a stellar job in organizing and hosting the Memorial Day Parade. And I think next year, because it was too late this year, I think next year, if I'm not mistaken, Public Events is taking over the parade.
Well, yes,
Chopper.
that's I mean, that's the resolution. The town is taking it over, and Public Events is just trying to figure out the best way to move forward. We have a lot of events, and this sort of, it's just a lot to do, and we need more time, and we'll figure out what going forward.
But there will still be a lovely ceremony, so it'll be very special.
Yes, there'll still be a lovely ceremony on Memorial Day, and we are having the Vietnam Veterans commemoration of the ending of Vietnam War. I was in Vietnam in 1969, so I'll be participating in it. I know there's a lot of veterans out there, like I said, and this was, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago I did it, so there's probably more than 70 now.
Stop with the age group.
I'm sorry?
Stop giving out the age group.
Well, we're mostly veterans of World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And I'm sure there are a lot of veterans from wars that preceded those wars.
So, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second, roll call.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Saliani.
Yes.
Councilman Sasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Eck.
Yes.
we have an introduction of an ordinance to authorize the acquisition of property for the easement. This has to do with the sidewalk.
Mhm.
So, is there a motion to introduce?
Motion to introduce?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes?
Councilman Saliani.
Yes.
Councilman Sisitsky.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Eck.
Yes.
And this will be, the final hearing will be,
Right, does this have to go to the
March,
planning board?
no, it's March 23rd would be the next.
well, this planning board tomorrow night, it doesn't have to go.
Correct.
All right, final adoption of 22 Code 877 has to be carried until March 23rd, 2022. Work session. Mr. Kunz, water service for Finale property.
Yeah, Brian, you want to cover this?
Yeah, I'll cover that. In accordance with the settlement agreement for the Finale property, both the water service will come from Suez through Franklin Lakes, and there will be a separate connection through Franklin Lakes to the Northwest Bergen County Utilities Authority. This ordinance authorizes Suez to run the necessary lines to service the Finale property, and it will be without cost to the borough.
Okay, thank you. Next item.
Okay, so if council's comfortable, we'll move that to an ordinance introduction at the next meeting.
Okay.
All right, next one up is another proposed ordinance. This one would amend the code as it concerns certificates of continuing occupancy. One of the things that came to light during this sort of frenzied real estate market started, towards the end of 2020 or so, was the fact that the code really doesn't have a mechanism for issuing temporary certificates of occupancy. And if you tried to sell your house here and you're on septic, you know that if you have to replace your septic because it's no longer compliant with the state septic code, that can be a bit of a daunting proposition, both in terms of cost and in terms of the amount of time it takes just to go through the process of engaging an engineer and submitting for permits and having the plan review done and actually scheduling and getting the work done all in time for you to close on your house. So that's been burdensome for some people. And so what we wanted to do was look at how we could accomplish a process by which residents would, or homes could be sold, and we could issue a temporary certificate of occupancy to facilitate the closing on these properties, while still putting a mechanism in place to ensure that all of the requirements for a CCO are met as well within a timely way. So
And I was one of the biggest pests about this. With all that's going on in the construction department, illnesses, substitutes, part-time people, the septics weren't getting done in time. People were losing, if they didn't close on the property, they would lose their fabulous rate for the mortgage. They weren't going to move in. Both the buyer and the seller were in a frenzy. We gotta do the septic, but we have to close, but we promised someone's gonna move in. And there was a lot of going on, a lot of stress. And so, this is the result of that, that if you sell your house and you need to redo, which is very, very common, more common than not common in Oakland, the septic, or get it fixed or replaced or repaired, it held up the closing, and many people can't hold up the closing. So this will be a way to sell the house, have the closing. The people who are buying the closing will not be able to occupy, is that correct?
That's the intention.
Right, will not be able to occupy the premises until the septic is completed and it's inspected. What was happening, they used to do this many, many years ago. This was allowed, and unfortunately, according to the officials down in our construction department, when I met with them, said people abused the privilege, and that's what happened. They said they weren't going to move in, the house would remain vacant, do your septic, everything is good, and then they moved in.
I just want to make one point clear to people. The health department does not require a new septic system for the sale of the house. Most of the time, it's for one of two reasons. It's either a requirement by the lending institution or the septic inspection failed. The health department, and I've had many people ask me this question, the health department does not require you to put a new septic system in to sell your house. It's because of those two items, two reasons why
There are
it's done.
also some homes in Oakland that still have cesspools.
Very, very few, thank God,
Yes.
but yes.
So that's what this is all about. I am so glad we put this together. Please read this. This is important.
There are some questions that we have with regard to this ordinance. I know that you said there aren't that many cesspools. I've already written 2 letters regarding cesspools.
I know, I did 2
In town.
closings with cesspools.
You know,
That had to-
there's more than you think, and state regulation prohibits the transfer of a property that has a cesspool.
Correct.
So the intention here is that you, well, let's go back a step. Apparently, there were temporary certificates of occupancy issued in the past where septic systems were not changed, there was never any enforcement, and it created some issues. Therefore, we've created an ordinance that says you can get a temporary certificate of occupancy, you can't occupy the premises, but we also have some blanks in the draft ordinance. You know, we've indicated that we want all the work to be done to the septic system within 90 days. We want a cash deposit to cover the cost of any engineering or legal fees for any inspections, because we are going to require an agreement for anyone that gets a temporary certificate of occupancy. And that agreement will indicate that they are acknowledging that when they get a temporary certificate of occupancy, they are not to occupy the property till the septic work is completed. The other blank that we had was a bond in the amount of X to be posted to cover the cost for the upgrade installation of the septic system. It was suggested that you have a bond out there in order to assure that the work is done. And the reason that you want to have the agreement is that if someone occupies the premises, you don't want to hear, "I didn't know." Now they're signing an agreement. So you get your temporary CO, if you sign an agreement, you post some money, and you get it done. The issue is that the sellers are not replacing the septic systems. They are imposing the burden on the buyer, and the house should not be occupied until that septic system is changed.
Especially now, when some people are replacing the septic, you sell a house that's a 3-bedroom house, the buyer wants to have a septic big enough for a 4-bedroom house in case they put the addition in. So all these are factors, and then the buyer pays the additional amount for the larger septic. So all this will cover that?
It's supposed to, but as I said, I left blanks for the escrow required and also for the bond.
So somebody signs the agreement, says, "I'm not gonna move in." They move in, what happens?
Well, the agreement that I would have is that they would be subject to ejectment from the property. And also that they acknowledge that they will be subject to fines of up to $2,000 in municipal court for violating.
And there's a bond.
Mr. Chakowski, who's going to, obviously if a seller is selling their house and their septic may be 60, maybe 100,000, just throwing a number out there, who's gonna do the review of the bond to see if it's sufficient? Will that go through engineering, health department?
My recommendation is not to have a bond to cover the cost of the entire system. I'm looking at a bond of a lower amount, whether it's $5,000, $10,000, just to have some skin in the game, that people recognize that you're serious about doing this.
So that begs the question, Mr. Councilman Talamini was saying, so let's say that the buyer moves into the house, and if he's willing to eat the $5,000, doesn't do the work, we're in the same position.
But do you have an agreement that indicates they can be ejected?
There's usually also an escrow held. So you get an estimate for a septic, 30,000. And it's not going to be finished before the closing. The agreement usually is that the attorney holds an escrow 1.5 times. So instead of 30,000, would hold back 45,000. So, to make sure there's extra money.
And then the other question
Because it's around 35,000.
is the building department on board with this?
Yeah, I had asked Mr. Whittakin to review it, which he did. And again, his concern was kind of when he walked in and saw what had been done and what the consequences of that were. You know, he's kind of followed the code, so he's not been granting TCOs, and that was kind of a change, I think, in the process from the past. But I think as long as there is a process in place and some mechanisms there to control the work to be done and provide the borough with some tools to ensure that, he's comfortable with it. And we'll work on the administrative side and set up an appropriate tracking mechanism, you know, on all these dates.
So, I'm a little confused. I mean, obviously, this is a civil matter between a buyer and seller. And if they can't make, why are we being interjected into this?
The seller is not doing the repair prior to the closing. It's sort of like you're the chicken and the egg. You have a transaction that's entered into, the seller says, you're buying it as is, you know, the price is adjusted to reflect that.
Okay.
What will happen is that let's assume the seller changes the system and the buyer walks away. So that is what I perceive is the concern. Otherwise, every seller, and we get a lot of requests with financial hardship and the like, with the cesspool, and, you know, we can't do this, the buyer will do it. You know, that's really the reason that you're
A lot of mortgage
imposing
companies require the septic to be finished, but there are people, who, believe it or not, are buying the houses for cash. So then there's no need to worry about the septic. So they want to close, seller has to move, he's going out of wherever he's going, he has to buy his new house. So the buyer says, don't worry, what we'll do is we'll sign this agreement, I won't move in, we'll close on the house, I'm not going to move in until the septic is done. And that's where the borough comes in, because they have to inspect, make sure that the septic was done and get the permits.
But why wouldn't they just do it during the closing negotiation? Why is the town involved again?
Because it's not that easy to get the inspectors out there, to get the septic work done, to get the borough to go in and inspect. As I said, we have part-time inspectors.
Well, the issue really is over the fact that you can't close until you have your continuing certificate of occupancy, okay? You can't get your continuing certificate of occupancy if you don't have the septic work done, because having the health center off is a prior approval, okay? So the septic, getting that septic work done has what's really been proven to be the hardship. So this actually is going to provide some relief to home buyers and home sellers that does not presently exist.
The CO also indicates that everything has been completed according to law.
Right.
So you have to have them post a bond and not move into the house so that we can say, yes, now the work is done, it complies with all the applicable laws. So we have to be involved, because we have to issue the CO.
The other aspect that you have, it's very difficult to get someone out. You say you issued a temporary CO and now you're going to throw them out. That's why you want an agreement, because the agreement says, we're throwing you out. You don't do it, you're gonna get thrown out.
So
You
now,
can't move in.
well,
They're
that's,
not supposed to.
yeah, so that's what I'm seeing now. So typically, you buy the house and you move in because you sold your house and you need a place to live. So now the septic's not done, but it works, you know? It's, but, perhaps, but so now, you know.
This will work if you can close without moving in.
Right, but, I mean, I know I wouldn't be able to close without moving in.
Well, then this wouldn't work, you wouldn't get the temporary CO.
He's never gonna lend on that.
You know,
Never gonna do it.
but, all right. And then we think 90 days is enough for the septic work? Is that, you know?
It could take less than that, but because of all the timing, it takes so long.
No, that's.
Yeah, between the inspections
And even in the winter, it gets hard
and
to
if
do.
there's, right, if it snows, if there's ice.
You also, you don't have a system now, and the intention is to create a system. If it's not working, you could always amend your ordinance.
I'm really struggling with this. I think I need more information. I'm not comfortable moving this forward at this time. I think we gotta maybe put this back in order. I just don't think I have a full understanding. Councilman Talamini's points,
Let's say you
perfect.
sell your house, and you need a
Perfect.
septic.
No, that was the perfect point. Where are you gonna go?
The only comment
And just one more thing on this. We're, like, I'm gonna bring up my OCC report. We're working on welcome packets. We wanna welcome people to town. We want them to feel good about coming to Oakland. This is a wonderful community, and the first thing we're doing is slapping them around for $1,000. I don't do something feezy, and I'm looking here.
We're helping them. I'll sit and
Doesn't
explain
see,
to
it
you
seems
about
like it's more
closings.
government, more bureaucracy, not.
Well,
You're helping the realtor.
Grant, we are helping them to sell and to buy. This is not going, this is our help. You don't know how many closings are delayed and people lose their mortgage rates, people lose their buyer,
And the
because the
realtors and
septic
lawyers
is holding them up.
That's what it comes down to, realtors and lawyers.
And you were trying to create a solution to a problem that exists because we are not issuing temporary certificates of occupancy. So the building department is not issuing temporary certificates of occupancy. Now, this provides a vehicle for that to happen.
I'll sit and explain to you.
Is it just we don't, the inspectors are not able to keep up?
No.
It has nothing to do with inspections, it has to do with, you are not to occupy a property with a failing septic system.
It's because the.
But that's the law
But the
already.
sept-
But
right.
that's already the law,
It's-
and
it-
someone was already living there.
But they're doing, yes, well, that's,
It's a whole nother story.
yeah.
It's a whole nother story. But what'll
So
happen
I had a
is-
neighbor who had a septic system from the original one from when the house was originally built in the 60s that worked, never had an issue with it, nothing, but was forced to replace it because of the law when they sold their house. And I know there was a huge burden and a frustration for them because no problems, it worked perfectly.
I'll
No,
sit and
I-
explain the timeframe. You're dealing with part-time inspectors, you're dealing with there aren't that many septic installers.
Yeah.
They are so busy, they were so busy.
But, you know,
The weather is a factor, closings are held up.
Supply chain, everything.
you know what, the issue frankly is more of one of the inherent time frame of the process, okay? Health Department reviews the septic plans, assuming that they're to code when they're reviewed. They were turning them around typically within 2 weeks. That stretched to about 3 weeks at the height of the sale. It's still within the statutory time frame that's permitted. When the sign-off was given from the Health Department, the CCO inspections are done within a couple of business days, you know. So there's no delay per se in terms of scheduling and getting out there and doing that inspection. It's really, okay, I want to close in 30 days. Well, if you need to replace your septic, you're not replacing a septic within 30 days, period. And again, this is designed to provide a mechanism for that closing to go forward regardless of that. And just setting up something there so that we can ensure that those requirements are ultimately met.
Because they couldn't close on the house.
Right. No,
without-
I understand, and it is shorter time windows now, and everybody wants to do things quickly, and the market's hot, and I get all that,
Was there any other municipalities that have this type of language?
Yeah, I was gonna
Yes.
say, who else is doing
Who's
this?
doing this?
I'll get you the names of other towns that do it.
Yeah, maybe we could look at that for next meeting, I don't know.
So we're saying,
Y Club does, is that one of the towns? I'll speak to my fellow mayors.
My realtor had to get in touch with the health department there, and they were gonna grant me permission to move out, but leave the money in escrow for my septic. I could have done it, I declined, because it was like $36,000, and I didn't wanna leave that in escrow with the buyer moving into my home. But I did have that ability to do that, the option.
With escrows, the septic, like I said, if the septic is 30,000, the buyer's attorney is requesting 1.5
yeah.
times, so it would
Yeah, I
have to
didn't
be held
want- I didn't
30
want that
plus
to happen.
15, 45,000 in escrow, just in case. That's
But
what's
you,
going on.
but also Wyckoff, you were able to, if you decide, if the buyer agreed that you didn't, that they didn't want, we left the money in escrow, that they could move in, we didn't have to do that. We didn't have to do the septic.
Well, I'm
improvement.
gonna find out from the other mayors, so I'm gonna see them.
Yeah, that's what Wyckoff does, that's what
So-
we did.
Still do now?
With this issue.
I just sold 4 years ago.
Well, I'm gonna find out what they do now, yeah, I'll find
Yeah, I
out.
said, so they don't require you have to
We
get it
used
done.
to in Oakland, was
Yeah, that-
changed
That's crazy.
many years ago.
So,
Who has
Mayor, what are our
60,000
next steps with this? Are we gonna have another working session this next week? Are we gonna vote on it next week?
I obviously, we're going to have to, we're going to
More
have to.
discussion. I'd really like to see what other towns are doing.
Review,
What they're doing is wrong.
that's the word, right? Relook at the,
Yeah, I mean, and
the
maybe there's
proposed.
things that other, if there is this problem and we're the only ones who can solve it as government, then maybe there's things that other towns have solved that isn't exactly this. Maybe there's an alternative plan that other towns have found different solutions, or maybe this is the only solution. I don't know, but I think I need to learn more before I'm gonna move forward.
Well, like I said, we're gonna review this at the next council meeting, in the work session. I will then get a hold of other towns and see what they have as their ordinance.
Yeah, Wyckoff doesn't do what you guys do. That's crazy.
Okay.
We haven't done anything
The next item is amend recreation fee schedule. Is that you?
Yep, Neil put a great email together and chart. You could see exactly what the revised suggestions are. This is pretty straightforward. This is completely discussed and agreed upon by Recreation Commission. It's been communicated. If anybody has any questions, I could go through anyone in particular that you have a question on, but I think it's pretty straightforward. They did a very good job, and it's very organized, very clear. Right now, I was gonna say this during the finance report, but I could say it now because it's relevant. Rec fees are up 60% year over year, right now. They're doing a great job.
Well, first of all, if you look at the chart, I mean, you gotta be so proud of our town. Look what they offer.
And all these programs ran during the pandemic. I don't know any
It's
other town that could say
unbelievable
they
what
pulled off what
Oakland
we did.
offers our
Thanks to
children.
those volunteers, the coaches, the parents, we did it.
And adults.
Yeah, we did it all.
That's parents.
It's amazing.
Okay. Any new business? Old business?
Yes,
Is that old or new?
old,
Okay.
traffic meeting.
I thought it was postponed.
Mr. Coons, I understand there's a temporary schedule for March the 17th. Have you firmed that up?
I believe that's the date that we're working on. I don't know that it's been firmed up yet, though.
Okay, so you'll be sending out a memo to confirm that?
I'll talk with Kathy about it. She may be waiting to hear back from people.
Because that's only 8 days away, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, the other one was,
And if we're gonna have a meeting on that day, I'll postpone the back.
oh
Big commitment on my part.
my. Yes, it is.
We'll have it in the morning for you, Pat, so you can make your festivities.
I'm sorry?
We'll have it in the morning for you, so you can make your festivities.
Okay,
What time is your, event?
it could be all day long.
Okay,
Old business?
yes.
Well, one, it's just good to see everybody's beautiful faces at the council meeting, so that's very nice. And the other thing I wanted to bring up was, and I don't have, I talked a little bit with Council President Pignatelli about this. Something that really is bothering me is the looming, the date in May that's coming up for no more bags at stores and these
Oh,
containers.
May 8th, was May 7th or 8th?
Yeah, it's coming up soon. We
May
have
6th.
the Oakland Green Team, I believe, went around informing businesses about this. I don't know why they're so excited about it, but again, I just think this is, any business can choose whether they want to provide bags or not, however they want to do it. I don't understand why government, the state has to come down and dictate what they're doing, like it's gonna make any difference. There's plastic and plastics everywhere and everything, and there's ways to be smart about it, and I think no matter what you do, people are gonna be responsible, we're gonna be irresponsible. I don't know what solution we can provide, but I think this is something that may shock some residents. We're gonna educate residents that this is coming up, inform people. If there's something we can provide to residents or a solution we can come up for bags or what we're gonna do for our business, but I know this is gonna hurt businesses, and I use the bags at ShopRite. the containers, that styrofoam containers, I mean, you know, what are we gonna do? Go down to the Knights of Columbus Fish Fry and tell the guys at the bar in Columbia Club that they can't use these to-go containers anymore for their fundraiser? I mean, to me, it's just wild that this is going on, and I don't think there's any way to exempt Oakland from having this, and there was nothing we can do. This is the word authoritarian coming up again, but that's the word that comes to mind since it was mentioned earlier. But something we could do, or something we can inform, educate, that this date is fast approaching. May's gonna be here before we know it.
It's not very pleasant. We're
It's not
stuck with
good.
it. My son, you know, one of my sons lives in Austin, Texas, and when I go shopping in the supermarket, if you don't have your own bag, you have to buy a canvas, you know, one of the tote bags.
It's a tax.
If
That's
you
tax.
go to, we went into Toys R Us to buy a toy at the time with my grandchildren, and no bags. You have to carry it out, just like.
Just like masks were a tax, right? We're gonna force you to purchase something you
So I don't know,
wanna use
it's.
and require you to wear them.
It's not just here, it's not just New Jersey, I guess this was in Texas.
There are alternatives, though, to the styrofoam packaging, Councilman, just
There
so
are.
you know.
Of course.
Yeah, there are
And
alternatives.
that's up to an individual business to
Industry
decide.
will be
I don't think we
providing
can
that,
accept
I'm
it.
sure. As you said, you and I spoke about this. I think you had an excellent idea about getting sponsors and buying 5,000 or 6,000.
didn't have a chance to talk to anybody else, I was so busy with work.
Okay.
I meant to.
Well,
So
yeah,
you should,
yeah, but we,
sell Oakland bags.
I would like to make sure that during the whole month of April, Mr. Coons, we have some bright letters on the sign indicating that, I think it's May 6th, but whatever the date is, letting people know that that's gonna happen on the date.
Yeah, and Council President Pignatelli, I did throw an idea that I came up with, just sort of thinking out loud on the phone with him, that maybe we come up with like a bag for residents, because I order them for work, or these tote bags and stuff, one of those bags with Oakland's logo on it, and then maybe sections front and back, you can sell, sponsors, businesses could advertise, or someone can take out an ad on it, and we can print up these bags and have them available to
The heavy
residents.
plastic, the canvas.
The canvas, like,
I know the green team, though, I think they are, right?
He'll buy all the green team bags.
Let me jump in here real quick.
Yeah.
Obviously, the green team has been educating business owners for the last several months about this legislation that's gonna take place on March 6th. You know, what I can do is I can bring it back to them. I believe they did have an initiative where they were looking to donate bags or something like that. So let me bring it up in the next
Okay.
meeting in the next 2 weeks.
Thanks.
I'll come back with a report for you.
They may need that $5,000 in the budget.
can we start it?
So I'll take that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other old business? If not, we'll start with you. You can keep going, Councilman.
Oh, boy, I need to take a sip of water now. Access for all. Thank you for being here. It was great hearing you come up and speak. What an amazing group of volunteers, some of our best residents. It's a pleasure to work with you, making connections with the other committees and commissions. You already spoke, so I won't go on, but we have another meeting coming up at the beginning of April. Looking forward to that and continuing the good work that we're gonna do to provide access for all residents and support individuals with special needs in our community. Flood Commission, there was no meeting last month. The next meeting is on Monday, the 14th, at the Senior Center.
And thank you
Oh.
for stepping in, thank you.
Oh, okay, yes, you're welcome. And we're gonna cover the Ramapo River restoration project that's gonna be happening. And I've been in communication with the chairman, Lou Levy, since I took over the liaison to that commission at the last meeting. The Rec Commission, we have baseball, softball, summer clinics, and spring break camp signups. They're all ongoing. That's oaklandrec.org, oaklandrec.org. The baseball and softball parade is on, so that will be on Saturday, June 4th. Break out your cell phones, put it in your calendar. Saturday, June 4th, 9 a.m. That's when the parade is going to be. The OCC, sadly, we did not have quorum for our meeting on Monday, but some of us still got together and hung out and were productive, maybe more productive than if we had a meeting. I'm not really sure. Sometimes you're just going around reporting and stuff, and it turned into this little collaboration session, very active. We're so close on sponsorships, we should be seeing that on the agenda, hopefully at the next meeting. and we'll be talking about, we can discuss what the sponsorship program. I'm very happy with the document and with this plan. It's something I've been talking about for years, so. We've got our social media that's reinvigorated, if you've been following. We're looking for ways that we can contribute more through sports, and they're currently working on what the waiver would look like to put images on social media and creating some templates for veterans and for different holidays and things that are coming up. So we're continuing that reinvigoration, and Corelli's been doing a good job, Mike Gambatese, Ryan, and everybody else involved. I mentioned welcome packets, we're really close. Hopefully be able to recruit another volunteer. I want to thank the mayor for introducing me to someone. We'll see if they agree to come on board, but we want to create these welcome packets. So anytime somebody moves to Oakland, they're welcomed into our community. Hey, this is what all the stuff is. This is where all the places are. These are all the things you have access to and the different programs and happenings and offerings in our community, calendar, different things, social media pages and links. So we want to pull all that together for new residents and make them feel welcome to our community. So that's ongoing. We have our bulletin board, but we need your events. So if you have events or anything going on, whatever you're involved with, please submit them to our bulletin board, because we want more contributed there. And also, you can contribute original music if you are a musician. We have that as the background sound. It's a good way to showcase local artists. Our next meeting is May 2nd at 7:30. The Finance Committee mentioned the rec fees earlier. Maybe one other thing to note is water collections are $38,000 below where they were in 2021. Thank you, Mayor. That's all my report.
Thank you. Nick?
Thank you, Mayor. Had a couple meetings last week. Number one, we had a OEM meeting that took place last week with our OEM director, all the department heads from first aid, fire, police, DPW, the mayor, members of the council. The two topics that we're discussing was more really of a year-in review of how the town handled the COVID epidemic for the last 2 years, and also the recent flood that took place, and kind of just took an assessment of how the town did. Obviously, the town really, I think Mr. Coons really stepped up when it came to trying to work with our employees, keep them safe and keep the town going. I will say it again, it was an abject failure when it came to the state and federal government on the way this was done and rolled out and testing, and seniors couldn't get inoculations, and I really think that the state and federal government could have done a lot better job. We also had a meeting this week with Police Chief, myself, Councilman Benek. We did a year-in review of last night with last year's review with the chief of kind of everything that took place. Also looking forward into his initiatives next year. There's going to be a lot of outreach for Coffee with a Cop, so you can really start, they're trying to reach out to the residents, community, children. Coffee with a Cop, once again, Safety Town is coming back, and also the Junior Police Academy, which was canceled last year, so there's a lot of community outreach coming back through the police department. We've scheduled 2 meetings for next week. We're going to be having a meeting with the fire department, with the fire chief and their officers, and the following day, we're going to be having a meeting with first aid squad and their officers as well, and I'll have more to report on that. I just want to take a minute. Obviously, we passed the resolution here for the Ukraine, and it seems like Ukraine is thousands of miles away, but it really does hit home. And I just want to talk about a family that lives in our neighborhood up in the Dogwood section, who is Yakov and Luda Ozhervetsky. They are 25-year residents of Oakland. Currently, I've been in contact with them the last couple of days, and just recently, earlier today, and I just want to share the story that their family is going through in the Ukraine. Luda's mother is 88 years old, lives in the Ukraine with her sister. Over the last couple of days, they have managed to find safe passage into Romania. And what they're dealing with is trying to find safe passage, and imagine this, her mother, 88 years old, carrying a cat in the cold with her sister, walking 10 miles to get to Romania to find safety and being welcome with these people. So right now they're in a safe position, and right next step is they're going to be moved to West Germany, and they've got housing in West Germany, but this is what they're really dealing with. Yakov's family, he's got family out there as well, about 20-30 miles west of Kyiv. From what he was telling me today, they've really bombed out his entire neighborhood. His family's kind of been under house arrest right now. They're expecting his family to have safe passage to Kyiv, and then from Kyiv they expect they're gonna be providing, I guess, hopefully through some type of agreements to be able to evacuate these people out of Kyiv, so. So when you hear about this Ukrainian thing taking place, it really does hit home. There's people in this community that are actually living this, and it's I just wanna, they're going through a tough time, so, it's here. So, that's all I have, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Let's talk about, did they ever total up how much Flo Follies made this year?
I have not seen the numbers.
He was a star in Flo Follies, he's going to tell you that. Speaking of the police, it's been on Facebook. I live on Rabin Avenue, where there were police and the bomb squad and the sheriffs. And unfortunately, the house where this occurred, his family is Ukrainian, and he's been in a very bad state, and what triggered it is the war in Ukraine. So it's very sad. It's very sad, but he's now in the hospital, and the family, I had them come over and talk to them until their son came, and they moved out of, they didn't move, but they were transported out of Oakland to be with family until all this gets done, but it's sad. But it wasn't my house. A couple of people thought it was my house. Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to commend Councilman Van Eck on the work that he did with this pickleball court problem. I know I've spoke to him several times, and he must have did 2 or 3 times that, more than just speaking with me. But he's very, very persistent, that's for sure. He really is a very good friend of recreation.
I want to say you are excellent, because the residents, the tennis residents, stopped calling me. That means it worked.
There you go.
I'd also like to thank Mike Guadagnino, Rich, and Dave for their help in this. It was a group effort to come up with a solution, but Councilman, you did a great job. Thank you very much for all the work. You did a lot of work, and it really shows. The Environmental Commission met on March the 1st. Chairman Lee Hayman spoke about the band shell, and that once the Park Committee disbands, the Environmental Commission will be taking part in future plans of the park. Under old business, they are creating a GIS mapping system of Oakland, which will include many things, all our parks, our trails, our recreation, several things, and that'll be good to mention in your welcome packet, that this GIS will provide all of that in a program that they'll be able to just download and look at. Commissioner Mike Minor and Chairman Lee Hayman spoke with Boswell concerning the PFOS problem, and they are in agreement with the action that we're going to be taking using granular activated carbon. Under new business, the Environmental Commission will be applying to ANJEC for a GIS grant for this GIS mapping project. And this will be good for new and existing residents to use. Reminder, cleanup, May 30th. And as I said at the last meeting, pardon? What did I say, May? I'm sorry, I'm reading 2 different lines here. April 30th, correction. Thank you, Michael. April 30th is going to be our town-wide cleanup. Parents, if your children need community service hours, this is an excellent way for them to accumulate their hours that they need. We do need 1 new member in the Environmental Commission. Environmental Commission is going to be embarking on a lot of programs this year. Anyone who's interested in the environment, protecting the environment, having programs concerning the environment, the Environmental Commission will be a good place for you to concentrate your efforts. Hazardous Waste Cleanup Day. There are 3 dates. Saturday, May 14th, July 16th and September the 10th, from 9 to 3 at Campcore. You can bring used oil, fluorescent bulbs, any pesticides, herbicides, old gasoline. It's really great. I would suggest getting there by 8:30 because the line does get long, and they do collect quite a bit of hazardous chemicals. So mark your calendar, May 14th, July 16th, September 10th, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Campcore. And that's it, Mayor. Thank you very much.
And May 14th is also shredding day? Shredding day,
Yes.
paper shredding. Councilman?
Just Oakland Public Events, earlier I mentioned the date. The date is Monday, March 14th at 7:30 at the Senior Center. I think I said the wrong date, but it's March 14th at the Senior Center. They'll have a meeting in person, and like I always say, it's a great committee. We always need volunteers, you see with the parade, that is with all the volunteers that we have, there's a lot to do, and if we had more people, maybe we'd be able to get the parade off, but we'll see what we could do. And then just a quick thank you to Oakland Recreation. Once again, my children participated in some rec. They did the basketball season this year. My one son is still in it. He has his championship game on Saturday. My other son, not so much this year, but again, Councilman Van Eck mentioned how we did stuff all through the pandemic. I can't tell you enough what Oakland Recreation has done for my family, my kids, me. It really was very important to us during the pandemic. It gave us something to do, and just thank you to everyone involved, and that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman?
Thank you, Mayor. Water and sewer updates. Skyview Highbrook sanitary system sewer lining. The last section of lining is on schedule to be completed today. The Iroquois pump station upgrades, a pre-construction meeting is being scheduled. The PFAS compounds treatment at the 3 water production wells. Cost analysis of treatment options was performed by Boswell, and a system was chosen by the Borough. Boswell continues with specification development for bids. Water main improvements within the Pleasureland area. Doty Road, final service work is scheduled for today. Lakeview Terrace, work continues and is expected to be completed soon. Grandview and Mountain View Avenues, work is scheduled to begin soon and is expected to be completed by the middle of April. Let's see, library update. The big news is the Library of Things will go live Tuesday, March 15th. This collection of items will allow patrons to borrow useful items that might otherwise present an unnecessary expense, and also allow patrons to try things out before they decide to commit to a purchase. Examples of some of the things they have for loan are a 17-foot indoor-outdoor projector screen, a high-quality projector, a GoPro camera, a thermal camera, a sewing machine, a check engine light reader, a knee walker, a Blu-ray player, an Xbox 360, a Wii, and a metal detector, and more. The library is accepting donations for the Library of Things, so patrons can reach out to the director. The other big news is masks are no longer mandatory, and the building is fully open. Book donations are being accepted, however, they do not take old reference materials like encyclopedias, etc. That's it, thank you.
Actually, I have a set. Councilman?
Thank you, Mayor. So, the Bush Plaza Committee met for our first meeting last night. As you know, we're looking to the old train station at Bush Plaza, so it's a great group of people. We had the borough administrator, and the town engineer there. So we've got our first overview plans of what we're gonna do, next steps. We'll be meeting again in 2 weeks, and I look forward to what we're bringing to the meeting. Again, at the high level, everyone seemed aligned. We had a very good working session last night. I really think what they bring forward, the town is gonna like. Shade Tree Commission, that meeting was on, they meet every first Monday of every month. That meeting was on March 7th. One quick point, the Shade Tree is looking for one more member to join. They have an open alternate position, so anyone who wants to join, please fill out a citizen leadership form and submit it. They're looking for one more member. They will be holding an Arbor Day event on April 28th in the Senior Center. And they will be giving out saplings that they have available if people want to have a sapling planted. So if you're interested on Arbor Day, which is April 28th, please go to the Senior Center. They'll also be running a clinic on the spotted lanternfly.
Is there a time for that?
I want to say 7:30, but I will.
Not morning.
No, at night.
No.
It was at night.
Said April 28th.
Okay, and then from the DPW report, the mayor stole my thunder with the whole shredding on.
Oh, no, just set the date. You
No
can give the whole thing.
No problem. So there will be paper shredding on Saturday, May 14th. Please get there early. Last time we did the paper shredding, I believe they were done by 10:30 because
Yeah.
there wasn't enough.
Yes, the line was long.
Real quick, on yard waste collection, several residents have recounted DPW. They're ready to clean up. They want to get their yards ready to waste. Granted, today probably doesn't make you feel like that anymore. But yard waste collection will resume for Oakland residents on April 11th. And then garbage and recycling, the Bergen County Authority will be holding a household hazardous waste collection event from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday, March 12th. The event will be held at the BCUA facility on Empire Boulevard in Moonachie. Some acceptable items include propane cylinders, used motor oil, aerosol cans, antifreeze, paint and varnishes, and vehicle batteries. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I just have one more thing. Obviously, I just want to give the update on the Patriots Way Bridge. The bridge once again remains safe. Thank the engineer for providing this to us. The current cost for replacing the superstructure today is currently $5.66 million. I don't believe, Mr. Coons, we've heard back from the federal government yet at this point for any funding sources through the grandiose plans they had in Washington, so I guess we're still kind of in limbo here.
Well, Councilman, the Congressman Gottheimer's office has called and is with an update.
They did call?
He called him last week.
Oh, well, I spoke with his chief of staff.
Right.
And let her know what we're doing, we're planning on doing with the Aarp money. Did ask for an update on Patriots Way Bridge, they didn't really have anything further than what we were needing.
But he feels confident.
So,
Are we in touch with Pascralidle or?
He called me.
I actually.
I mean,
Yes,
he's our
gonna be our
congressman.
new, yes, we're supposed to get together.
Yeah, Mr. Talamini, I did have a nice chat with Congressman Pascarell. I have his name as chief of staff and everything, and once we get closer toward the end of the year, we'll be putting meetings together.
He called me, we're gonna meet.
Okay.
Motion to open to the public.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wish to speak?
I do have one comment, actually. What's that? What is it? The Domo? What's the Domo? Oh, I just wanted everybody to know that the American Legion.
You have to give your name and address, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Philomena LaForgia, 54 Saratoga. You mentioned the United Legion.
American Legion.
American Legion building. I just wanted you to know that I'm not sure if you realize, but in the building you have original furniture that is Art Deco, or it's pretty expensive, and I heard rumors that you might want to remove it and replace it. So just so you know, those green chairs are probably worth about $300 to $400 each. So just don't throw them out.
I'll tell the commander.
Where's the green chairs?
Thank you.
Where are the green chairs?
Folding chairs.
Oh, the folding
They're
chairs.
The one with the round back and all? Yeah. There's not a lot of them though, but.
No, the
We'll
whole,
take them off your
the
hands if you
whole
want.
building.
I'm sure you
The
will.
whole building you have full of them.
There might be a
No,
couple
the
of dozen. No, those are, the other ones are the white chairs, those are metal. There's not too many of those.
The green ones.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
When I go on
You're right.
March 29th to the Vietnam ceremony, I'm gonna check them out.
Yeah.
It's
Don't
20
throw
to
'em
10.
away.
We have first dibs there.
Oh, quick, name and
At
address again,
$300?
sorry.
Sure.
Yep, stop talking, the time is with,
Deb Mutter,
Councilman just reminded me of the time, sorry.
Deb Mutter, 101 Walnut Street. Why isn't there anything for these kids to do? Did you guys ever think of doing movie in the park on a Saturday? early morning, or, early, when the lights go, when the sun goes
Daylight.
down. Are you guys gonna do anything about the skate park? The kids like to do the skate park. What's there to do? I have a 14-year-old that complains that there is absolutely nothing to do in this town, and she's right. There's
Well,
nothing to do.
There's basketball, there's tennis.
Yeah, those are activities that they do, but what do you do for them as a town? Wyckoff always had movie nights once a month during the summer.
That's a great idea.
I think it's an awesome idea. We used to go.
Great idea.
We used to go, and you got all families and little ones and everybody to come out. And the skate park, why can't we fix up the skate park?
Let's talk about that. We had a meeting last year about the skate park. Like anything else that we do with recreation, we gotta fund it, and the money's not there. So you gotta fundraise for these things, like when the tennis courts were first put in, there was a lot of controversy around that, and other things that the town did. But like, for instance, the walking path, that was funded by donations. And I'm very interested in the skate park. That's why actually Linda and the Mayor Schwager and me met with people who were interested in doing it. There was conversations, emails going back and forth. That's not the first time it's come around. So if it's something that you're interested in, I'm absolutely open to that conversation, something I'm excited about.
Yeah, exactly, but I mean, there's gotta be more things to do for these kids other than the regular sports,
Rather
rec
than
sports.
team sports, you're saying.
Good point.
Absolutely. Movie in the park, do it it's great. I'll tell you, it's a great thing to do. And you'll see how many little ones come out.
Public events can look at?
I was gonna say, that's another thing you could add to your list.
I wrote it down already.
Thanks. Anybody else? Motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bills to be paid.
Bills to be
Councilman?
paid, $342,447.84. So moved.
Second.
As long as you read the bills list, you can vote. Roll call.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Saliani.
Yes.
Councilman Sislinski.
Yes.
Councilman Palomini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Eck.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next meeting will be held March 23rd and will be before 10 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out. Listen, don't forget.
I was supposed to take you.